Hey everyone, John Henry here, slingshotfutures.com, and welcome to the market outlook for futures in Forex, where we take a look at our big six markets. Now, the main goal of the nightly outlook is just to create a plan for tomorrow so we can be as prepared as possible for tomorrow's price action. Now, today we had a lot of really big news coming out at 2 o'clock. We had the FOMC statements, the economic projections, and the Fed interest rate decisions, etc., which did end up going higher. They went up to 0.75% from the prior 0.5%, and the market responded. We had some pretty big movement today. Now, the nice thing is, when we're looking at tomorrow's price action, there's not really a whole lot on the news calendar. There's some stuff at 8:30, but outside of that, it gives the market a little bit of time to digest what happened today. So it's a good thing. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's price action. Now, before we jump on in here, make sure to swing on over to slingshotfutures.com, scroll down to the bottom, and join the Daily Outlook newsletter. That's what you're watching right now, and that allows you to get on our mailing list so you know exactly when it comes out as soon as it comes out, so you never miss a beat. And then also make sure to swing by the blog every morning to get those live trade room morning prep levels that we're going to be keeping an eye on through the day of trading. Now, on to the big six. So the first one on the list, gold. Now, gold obviously didn't take the news so well, right? Pretty bearish move to the downside. Now, this massive drive lower from the bears, it kind of spiked off of that initial move, and it looked like it might be kind of weak. They had a big move down, but a lot of it was wick. They confirmed it, though, with that continuation to the downside, and that allowed the sellers to pile drive it down one more time. But notice all of the buying inventory down here just was not allowing the sellers to take much, which tells us one big thing. Sellers don't want to sell low anymore, right? At least at that point in time. They want to sell at a better price. So they waited for the bounce, and then they pile drived it lower. Now, that did form a descending wedge, and the descending wedge got a little bit overzealous on the downside. Chances are what we're going to see here is a little bit of range play, a little bit of back and forth, maybe a slight correction to the upside before sellers start taking back over. We have a major sell side objective down at 1135. And if we can get down there, maybe the overnight session, maybe tomorrow. What I would really like to see, though, is for the market to rise higher, take back some of this move so sellers can jump back in. We have an obvious area of support and resistance, major swing low, and a to the tick test swing high, all at the same level at 1150. So I would love to see a test of that area to try to sell it down from there. If it does want to go further, the next area is between 57 and 55.7 for more selling opportunity. Again, looking for that major objective to the downside at 1135. On crude oil obviously today is inventories. We also had all of the other things going on too. So there is going to be kind of a double reaction. We have the inventory news announcement come out, big spike higher on crude, and then really bad follow through, right? Just like what we were talking about on gold, except this time they didn't confirm the move. That breakout was invalidated. They had the big spike up, and then everybody disappeared. So when they come back up towards those highs, that's really do or die. The buyers need to take it higher above, and if they can't, you're likely going to fail and potentially double this news candle, but to the downside, right? Equidistant breakdown, and that's what they did. We had a big move up to the highs, immediate failure, right back down, and if you measure this bad boy up here, that's that inventory candle. We found support. You guessed it. Look at all of that wick right in that area. Now, it didn't stop there. We actually continued further to the downside, but you can see all of the wick now starting to come in. The buyers are starting to push against the sellers a little bit. Now, there might be the sellers just becoming buyers taking profit. That could also be buyers trying to pick a bottom. Generally not a good idea to do in this kind of move, but we're looking for continued downside. We have major objectives below us at 50.41 as well as 50.22 if we can get some continuation of the downside. And with this little bounce that we had right here, this is where all of the buying pressure started coming in after that big drop. The highest point they were able to make it to is 51.19, 51.20 or so. What I would really like to see is the market to poke its head into that area, find resistance right around that wedge top, and then take a dive right down into that 50.41 to 50.22 area to continue that selling pressure down to the objectives. Now, if we look at current price, they may not let that correction happen, right? This is still very bearish. We're making a little bitty wedge right here, and that may be all the buyers are able to do for right now. So just kind of keep that in mind. You may have to have your aggressive hat on, but overall, I would like to sell a better price to try to get the drive lower first. Might not let you do it. And then we move over to the Dow. The Dow had a beautiful reaction, big move up, and then it took it all right back, all the way down to a huge new low. And then it did it a couple more times, right? Big push down, bounced, big push down, bounce, big push down. But notice a problem here. We couldn't make a new low. So right now we're finding a little bit of a wedge inside here. The bottom edge is kind of aggressive, but we're getting stuck. Chances are what's going to happen now is we're going to start transitioning into more of a range type phase with a bearish bias. So with that in mind, I would rather sell high, looking to sell it around 19,832 and 19,816 for the move back down to the lows, where we will then find support between 19,706 to 19,691. Now, because we do have a bearish bias to this move, I would rather, instead of buying in this level, maybe buy a little bit underneath it for a possible head fake. If we do come back up to the highs, though, that area would look really nice around that 832 to 816. So looking for continued downside pressure, but I would like to see a slightly better price. Over on the Forex pairs, the EURUSD took an absolute nosedive to the downside, very reminiscent of what we're going to see from the Dow and across a lot of the currency pairs. We have a descending wedge to finish the day off that got a little overzealous at the bottom. The sellers started taking profit towards the end of the day, and now we're probably going to transition into more of a range phase. Now you'll notice there is a small area of resistance right here at around 53.5 or so, 53 5.0 in that area. But what I would really like to see is the buyers try to take some of this move back. Not all of it. They might only make it to 560, but I would like to see them try to dig up into that 5817 to 5930 area, find some selling resistance there on a significantly better price, and then see if the sellers are still interested to the downside. Now we do still have support underneath us, 50.88 down to 49.64, with a major sell objective at 47.74. So there is still downside momentum, and just like we saw, earlier, they may not let the correction go very far. It does appear as though this is still a very heavy move. So this deeper correction that I'm looking for, we might not get it. We may have to be a little more aggressive than that if we're going to ride the train to the downside. Now, over on the pound dollar, very similar situation. Big down move into a descending wedge. This one isn't showing as much weakness at the bottom as we saw on the euro. Either way, though, looking for selling again, kind of the same story, right? Looking for this to transition possibly into a bearish type range. Resistance, the big area that I would love to sell, 26,393 to 26,258. We might not make it that far, right? It's going to be a common scenario. Support underneath us at 25,405 to 25,305. I would like to see what the reaction is there, but again, with that overall downward bias, we may head fake the bottom first before coming back up in. So I would love to sell a better price. They may not let us do it, but around that 26,258 rather to 26,393, maybe even as low as 26,10 or so in that area to look to sell back down to the lows. And then finally, the dollar yen, basically just flip all of the other charts on their head and look to the upside. We have an ascending wedge working its way higher. Now, the dollar yen is showing a huge amount of bullish strength, and we're looking for the buyers to continue, right? But just like we want on all of the other pairs, we don't want to buy way up here. We want to buy at a better price. We have open objectives above us. The open objective for the dollar yen is up at 117,751. So we are looking for continued bullishness, but I really want to see a better price first. They may only allow it to go down to that 116, 65, 66 area or so. But I would love to see 456 hit. And if possible, even a little further down to 063 to 115, 964. Get a big pullback, take some of this back, and then rocket ship all the way back up to finish the job. It's another one of those situations that it may not let you get that far back. But if it does, assume that there are going to be a lot of buyers in that area. But you may have to have your aggressive helmet on for the dollar yen as well. So overall, we're looking a little bit aggressive going into the overnight session. The overnight session may be a little bit calm, but then if that is the case, we're looking at a pretty volatile tomorrow, right? So maybe kind of an interesting day of trading. Either way, though, make sure to play it safe tomorrow. If you followed your plan today, you did just fine. And hopefully, if you did trade through the FOMC, you're on the right side. And if you weren't on the right side, well, you'll know why I said hopefully you weren't trading it. Either way, though, great day of trading and some potential for tomorrow's movement. So, as always, make a plan, trade the plan, follow those rules, and we will see you all tomorrow.